Hey, this is Gary Talley, and I want to welcome you to my Dadgum podcast. I'm going to be talking about my experience in the music business, playing with the Box Tops in the 60s, the Beach Boys, Jimi Hendrix, the Doors, a lot of interesting stuff. I'm going to be interviewing other musicians. We're going to be talking to my mom, Nita Talley, and how she learned how to play and sing. We're going to be talking about how to play a musical instrument, how to learn how to play, and some misconceptions people have about learning to play an instrument, especially guitar. I want to remind you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go to my website, garytalley.com, and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Let me know what you want to talk about, and stay tuned. This is one of my favorite Box Top stories. It happened in 1969 in December. That's the third year we were together. In 67 we had The Letter, and then and Cry Like a Baby was our big song in 68, and then Soul Deep was in 69. So every American band wanted to go to England because the Beatles and the Stones and Cream, Procol Harum, The Who, they were all our heroes. So in December, the middle of December 1969, we flew over on BOAC, and we got into London in the morning. Beautiful, clear day, cold but sunny. We took one of the famous London cabs over to a little hotel on Bayswater Road across from Hyde Park. It was called the Park Court Hotel. When I got up to my room, about on the third floor, the window opened up to Bayswater Road, and across the street was Hyde Park. And I saw all the people, the businessmen, walking in their bowler hats and their umbrellas under their arms, and the mothers pushing the prams with their babies in them. And it was just a big thrill for me to see that for the first time. There was a little blonde girl down at the front desk of the hotel, and she called everybody Ducky. And we got to know her pretty well. Sorry I forgot her name, but she told us where to go to eat and told us about the clubs and everything. Our keyboard player was Swain Schaefer at the time, and I had to go with Swain every time he wanted to eat, because he could not understand the English waitresses, and they couldn't understand him either. One of the first places we went to eat in London was called the Tennessee Pancake House, and we're all from Memphis, and it was very funny to be eating in the Tennessee Pancake House, and they had murals on the wall of people playing banjos and eating watermelon and stuff. Very interesting. So we had been booked on a 2-week tour of England, and we were going to start in a couple of days, and we had to rehearse and meet the opening band, which was a reggae band from Jamaica called King Ollie The Raisins. So on rehearsal day, we took a cab over to an elementary school while school was in session. This is the middle of December. We walked in, and there were little kids running up and down the hall. And we went down to the basement of the school, and there were King Ollie The Raisins, these Jamaican guys, and they had dreadlocks and very colorful clothes, and they were older guys than us. And we looked around, and we didn't see the amps we had put in the rider. We asked for either Marshall or Fender amps. We didn't see them, but there was a Marshall PA amp, but there weren't any guitar amps. So nobody from the promoter's office was there, only that opening band. And we said, we signed a contract that said we were supposed to get these Marshall amps or Fender amps or the equivalent. And King Ollie said, "But it's Marshall gear, man. It's the best gear." And I said, "Well, yeah, that's a Marshall PA amp, but what about the guitar amps?" He said, "No more amps, man. You got to play on our gear." So we looked over at the drum kit, and it looked like something you would buy your 10-year-old for Christmas, like with a palm tree on the bass drum, and it was really small and looked over at the organ. The organ looked like kind of a toy organ, and we were used to using a B3, which is a huge thing. And the Leslie cabinet that went with the organ was a real Leslie cabinet. That's a big wooden cabinet, but it had a rotating speaker, like all Leslie cabinets do, but it was broken, and the horn would whack up against the side of the cabinet as it rotated, and it sounded like, your great-grandma's old washing machine or something. But we actually tried to play a song using their equipment, and it just sounded horrible, just horrible. In fact, the Leslie cabinet with the speaker whacking against the side was louder than the drums. So we did something that all musicians fear. We called a band meeting. Now, what you may not know is that people have been dismembered and killed at band meetings, so you don't want to have a band meeting unless it's absolutely necessary. So we went outside and had a little talk and decided we did not want to play on this equipment and that we were going to call our manager, Roy Mack, back in Memphis, which is not easy to do. There were no cell phones, and getting a hold of people on an international call was a little bit difficult. We actually had to go to the principal's office to make a call. So we're in the principal's office. We did get a hold of him, and we had to hang around in the principal's office and wait for him to call back. He was going to make a call to Arthur House and see if he could straighten it all out. So about half an hour later, he actually did call us back there at the principal's office and said that Arthur House refused to supply us with the amps we had requested and had a signed contract for. So we told Roy, we're not going to do the tour. This equipment is horrible. And that didn't make him happy, but we were adamant that we weren't going to play on that stuff in our first trip to England. So while we were in the principal's office, King Ollie and the Raisins and our bass player, Harold Cloud, had retired out to their van, which was parked on the street, and there was a lot of smoke coming out of the van. It was like a Cheech and Chong movie. Anyway, so when we got through with our meeting, we went down to find Harold, who we thought was in the van, and the van was gone. So our bass player, Harold, never got the word that we were canceling the tour, and he was on his way to Ipswich with King Ollie and the Raisins. So we tried to get a hold of the people in Ipswich, but we either didn't have the right number or didn't have any number for the venue. And later on, much later on, about 3 o'clock in the morning, Harold shows back up at the hotel. He never got the word that we weren't playing, and he was faced with a rather hostile crowd in Ipswich. So the people in Ipswich did get to hear King Ollie and the Raisins, and they got to meet Harold, and Harold survived the trip, but we never saw King Ollie and the Raisins again. So we decided, since we were already in London, we might as well stay a couple of weeks and have some fun, because we had the 2 weeks blocked out to tour, and now we weren't going to do it. So we rode around on those cool double-decker buses and took those famous London cabs and explored London. So on one of my exploratory trips, I was in the subway station. They called it the tube station. And I heard this couple singing, "I Shall Be Released." We had recorded that song in the box tops just a few months ago, so I knew it. I started singing a harmony part, and they liked it. So at the end of the song, we started introducing ourselves. I told them I was with the Box Tops and we'd recorded that song, and that we were in London for a couple of weeks. And they introduced themselves. The girl was a beautiful model from Seal Beach, California, and the guy was an older English guy, an ex-con from Redcar, I think, with prison tattoos all over his hands, a guy named Bobby Shaw. And they had recorded a song called Clockwork Man at EMI Studios on Abbey Road and needed a guitar on it. So they asked me to put a guitar part on it. So, of course, I said, yeah. So that evening, I took a cab over to the studio and went into the big studio, which I don't know if they call their studios A, B, and C or 1, 2, and 3, but Studio A or number 1, the big one, where the Beatles recorded A Day in the Life with the orchestra, is the one where we were. So the control room is up some stairs. It's on another level than the studio, and the studio had little red telephones sitting around the studio that you use for talkback, which was really odd, because in all the studios I'd been in, you just had talkback to the control room on the headphones. But they had these little red telephones. Anyway, so I put a guitar track on the record, and everybody liked it. Now, the producer and the engineer were probably somebody that I would know now, but I don't remember their names. Of course, I was so excited about being in the studio where the Beatles recorded that I went around the whole building and sat in every chair in the building, all the studios and in the halls and in the lounges, in everything. I think I may have even sat on all the toilets so I would know where I sat, where a Beatle sat. So the record Clockwork Man came out in 1970. It got on the British charts. I think it only got up to about number 30, but I was really thrilled to have played on a record that was on the charts in England and be in the studio where the Beatles recorded. I never heard the finished record until a couple of years ago when somebody found it and put it on YouTube, Clockwork Man by Susan Keeley and Bobby Shaw, and I'm going to put a little piece of it on the podcast here somewhere so you can hear it. Bobby and Susan had 2 singles out on Columbia, and one of them was Clockwork Man, the one that I played on, and then they had one called Life in the City, and I don't know what happened to him after that. I heard later that Clockwork Man got up to around number 30 on the British charts in 1970. We cut it in December. It came out in January. One of the things we did in London was go to Carnaby Street and buy clothes. That's where all the cool London clothes were, and all these bell-bottom pants and cool shoes. And I bought some Italian loafers that will actually come into play in another story coming up. Shirts with the big flared collars and all that, very colorful. One of the fun things we did was we went to see this band called Colosseum in London, which was one of the first bands to fuse jazz, rock, and blues. They were a really cool band, and actually Ainsley Dunbar came and sat in on drums with them that night. And our old buddy Bobby Whitlock was playing with Delaney and Bonnie at a place called Croydon, which is a suburb of London, and we went to see them. And they were really good. Eric Clapton and George Harrison sat in with them fairly often at that time, but we missed them that night. So I'm going to end this little section right here, but we're going to continue with the box tops in London on our next podcast. Thanks. Thanks for listening to my Dadgum podcast. I want to invite you to interact with me by going to my website, GaryTalley.com. When you get there, you can book me to play gigs or teach guitar workshops or book individual guitar lessons. You can follow the Box Tops touring schedule. You can link to my YouTube channel and subscribe to that. See videos of my mom, Nita Talley, singing and playing piano, and buy my mom's CDs. I play live around Nashville in a few bands. I have a duo with Sally Sladen Berry called Take Two, and we've got a Facebook page. I do recording around Nashville, playing guitar on songs, and I can do that for you too. Thanks for listening.